As I am writing this video, we are about 1 week away from Splatoon 3 officially releasing. The Splatfest has come to a close, and we are well aware of what the game will be like, because we've all played Splatoon 2 before. Now Splatoon 3 is really fun, I won't deny that, but that's only because it's the same game again with just a tiny bit more added on top. Like, this $80 game would literally just be a quality of life update if it was made by any other developer. But hey, you've probably already heard this before, so I'll just cut right to the chase. Splatoon 1 and 2 were very similar because it was a jump from one console to another, and nobody had the last console anyway. Splatoon 3 is on the same console, however. They have to do something new. Anything really. Please! All Splatoon 3 does is force Splatoon 2 players to buy the same game again so they can actually enjoy upcoming Splatfests. So I'm here to drastically remodel Splatoon 3. I'm going to try and change almost every single part of Splatoon 3 so Splatoon 2 can stand on its own. I'm purposefully making Splatoon 3 the black sheep of the franchise. The Double Dash, if you will. The Brawl of Splatoon. The Zelda 2 of Squids and Kids. The Mario Sunshine of Octarian violence. This whole time, Splatoon has only had one theme. And that's like modern, I think. The shops are modern, the hub is like Times Square, the mode select is like products on peg hooks. I never really got that. The community bends to the will of our corporate overlords as we are distracted by celebrities and flickering lights. Basic modern stuff. Splatoon 3 looked like it was going to have a wealth gap of sorts as we are going to a much hotter and dirtier looking place. Nope! The main hub looks just like every other hub we've had, just a lot bigger and harder to find things. I say we really delve into the idea of a more impoverished area, but also give the place a more nomadic feel. In the first trailer, when Splatoon 3 was announced, the hood and braided hair had me wanting a more wild environment. I'll get into the theme more into the videos, I show how it affects other parts of the game, but let's just redesign the main hub right now. Instead of being another city, what if it was a large trading port? All the shops would be small caravans that change every week or so the constantly changing stock would make more sense. There will still be one of every type of clothing, but the shop owners and style of the shops will change occasionally. This would also add some practicality because you'd see this week's shop and you would immediately know what kind of clothes they're selling. One shop may sell more nomadic clothing, like apocalypse gear. One may be very professional and sell top-of-the-line work-ready clothing. One may be called Inkopolis Imports, which will have similar clothes to what the last two games were sporting. This could help make the game seem more alive, and if Salmon Run could have shift times, I don't see why this wouldn't work. This idea can be expanded outwards significantly, especially in the main story. The main story would disconnect completely from the past two games. You'd start off as a young, naive squid or octopus just being a little annoyance. One day, when illegally painting the wall of a large gang leader, you get caught and have to flee. During the escape, you fall off a cliff or something and get separated from your friends. The landing greatly wounds you, but luckily another benevolent gang leader picks you up, and now you're a part of the family. This would be at the start of the game, so you can learn how to play while graffitiing, and fleeing would be a test of what you've learned in the practice. This would also connect you to all parts of the game. The leader would bring you to the main hub, tell you about all the shops, then let you go have fun, telling you to go to the Great to see them again. This keeps the tutorial short and sweet while giving the plot significance. Once you actually go back to the leader, they inform you of how the story mode will work. The story hub will look something like a Star Wars sandcrawler. There will be a jobs board where you can find missions to do. The missions might range from winning a game against AI or completing a level in the style of the other games. Once you complete a certain amount of missions, a new part of the story will be revealed. The Octarians from the last game are no longer the big enemy. In fact, no one really is. A plot point may just be a larger version of one of the aforementioned missions, but occasionally you will get a visitor. This is where a people aspect to this game comes in. They will make an offer, ask for help, a third thing I haven't thought of yet. You will then be given the option of yes or no, and depending on what you choose, a very basic choose your own adventure part of the game initiates. Depending on your choices, you have one of three endings. Help the gang that saved you rise to top gang, join the first gang that you graffitied originally, or become your own power, rising to the top of your own party. Depending on what ending you will get a fancy reskin of the splatter shot. You'll be able to go on for different ending once you finish if you want to get all the skins or see the endings. Completing the story will also be the only way to get the splatter shot, because we are drastically overhauling the weapons. None of the weapons from the past games will be available, except the splatter shot. The past two games all had shooter metas, so I am removing the shooters. All weapons will be weird gimmicks now. Now, is this a terrible idea because that just increases the amount of work put on into balancing and disappoints past fans who want to have this to be somewhat of the same game? Yes! But I said I'd be changing everything, and I am mostly sticking to it. We already have our first 2 new weapons with the Stringer and Splatana, but let's add some more. First, I'm thinking of some form of gauntlet that has 2 moves. One is tapping the attack button to punch, but then if you hold it, you will do an ink clap, which is much more deadly. If I was really willing, I'd add a grab and throw ability, but that would probably just be really annoying. What about a boomerang that you throw which inks the ground underneath before coming back in about 1 or 1.5 seconds? If you hit somebody, it comes back immediately though. Or a weapon like a syringe. It's basically just a splatling gun, but a little different, where you can see your little guy pulling back and then pushing the syringe back in to fire at the enemies. There could be a sub-weapon that plays like a short-range zip caster for just bailing out of bad situations. In fact, since dualies won't be a weapon in my dream Splatoon 3, you could make a sub-weapon actually be more like a rule that costs ink. I'm still allowing subs from the last games though. I'm not a masochist. I didn't really think of many special weapons either. Most are just tactical bonuses, like something similar to ink armor, but instead you are always inking the floor beneath you, allowing for constant mobility. You are all a lot more creative than I am, so if any of you can think of a new weapon or sub, feel free to leave it in the comments. Best ideas get a point. That's all. But you can't use your weapons without it, so let's get into Turf War. Before we actually get into Turf War, I want to change the lobby mechanics Splatoon 3 just introduced. I do like the new lobby, in fact we will be keeping it, but let's take it one step further and allow the player to enter Paint Skirmish if they want. This is a free-for-all do-whatever-you-want mode, where everyone is their own color. I believe this would make really pretty maps with all the clashing colors, but also it should be a mode accessible in private lobbies to allow more creative games. With just a simple change in providing a free-for-all mode, people can play TTT, Infection, and much more. It'd be cool if they allowed for even more customization to individual players so we could have boss battles and stuff, but come on. This is Nintendo we're talking about. For actual Turf War, I aim to solve one major problem with it. The only part of the match that matters is the last 30 seconds. Though I'm not entirely sure how to fix this because it's surprisingly hard to change Turf War without it being an entirely new game mode. Here's a few ideas though. One is to give kills value. Kills already technically have value because the more you murder, the less your enemies can paint, but to have number of kills add, say, 10 to 25 points each, it would allow more aggressive and murderous plays. That way you could have less turf colored and still win with kills. 2 would maybe have ink dry or get stale. The longer ink is on the ground, the harder it is to paint over. This could cause some issues though, as it might change from the last 30 seconds to the first 3 seconds that actually matter. 3 is to have walls also apply to the final points. This way you could have maps that are more horizontally focused, but also maps that are more vertically focused. You could also create a new form of mobility, where you're on a wall holding ZL and you aren't moving, you enter wall hook form, where you're hooked to the wall and you can shoot, just not move, or maybe only move slightly. And finally, 4 is to introduce more dynamic courses. Say a level takes place on the sand crawlers from earlier and they move around constantly. Suddenly, one color is on the enemy team's side now and paints all over their hard work. Something like that. Not all ideas are amazing, but they're still game changers that would separate Splatoon 3 from the previous games. Let's take a break from Turf War. Let's actually add something to Ranked. Now my friends are saying that League is actually going to be very different from Splatoon 2's, but the game modes are still the same 4 from the last game. That's why I'm going to do the exact opposite and replace all 4 with new ones. This will only make life harder for me, but I'm going to act like this is a total spite to Nintendo. The first new game type will be something like Salmon Run Versus. Everybody has 10 eggs in their basket and there will be 9 more spread about the map. The team with the most eggs by the end wins. Maybe there will be 2 baskets per team and spread out the gameplay a little bit more. Another addition will be the inclusion of salmonoids on the map. Each team will have salmon with them that just make the game a little bit more difficult. Over time, the amount and type of salmon increases to make the game even more hectic, and maybe even some boss salmon will appear in the last minute or so. The second one would be what I'm going to call Tower Control Rise. Despite the name, this one is actually more akin to Splat Zones. It starts as your ordinary map with a splat zone-like rectangle in the center. Once the rectangle is fixed to a color, though, the rectangle will rise from the ground as it builds a taller and taller tower. This makes it harder to gain control as the winning team gets higher off the ground, and each time you die, you have to start back at the bottom. This will support the new wall mobility I mentioned in Turf War and give it a more competitive use. This one definitely has some kinks to be worked out, but I think it has a great potential. The third one is Leader Swipe. This one will play into the idea of nomadic clans and gangs more. Out of a team of 4, one person is chosen to be a leader. The leader has 4 to 5 times the amount of health, does double the damage, and has much quicker access to specials. The only problem is, if that person gets splatted, the other team wins. Their health will be displayed publicly at the top of the screen, and marked to how low it gets for when the health regenerates. Either whichever team defeats the other leader or gets the other leader's health to the lowest wins. This is also a pretty hard game to develop, but it could be a blast to play. I actually am not sure what the final game type would be. I have been draining my brain for the past 3 hours trying to think of something, so I'll just trust you all with the last game. 182 minds are better than 1 after all. I would think of a 4th one of my own, but my brain is still distracted on how poorly Scissors did. Like actually, you got Big Man on your team, but Rockwin's popularity? Couldn't even win clout-wise. I'm disappointed in us, Scissors. Do better next Splatfest. I really want to bring the nomadic idea into the Splatfest, and this is how I'm going to do it. The Splatfest is going to play out like a ginormous turf war. When you pick a choice, you are joining that clan and will fight for that clan the entire time that the Splatfest lasts. When you choose Turf War, you will see a large map of 21 different sections. Each clan gets 7. When 2 different colored sections are next to each other, the 2 clans will be able to battle for each other's section. You select that area and fight on the map of whichever those sections tie to. The maps will update each hour. Whichever team has the most clout in those areas by the end of the hour takes over. If 3 colors are touching, then the new tricolor mode can be played. The clans with the most sections by the end wins the Splatfest. Basically Risk meets Splatoon. You will also be able to see where the most battles are if you want to take the less trodden path and do a large-scale flank. I feel like most other things in this video, it needs to be worked on, but also has great potential to really spice up the basic formula. It would also help balance the new tricolor turf war, because more than just one team will be playing the defensive for the rest of the Splatfest. The Splatfest already was pretty fun anyway. I wouldn't be too offended if they changed it or not. The greatest offender of Splatoon 3 sameness is undoubtedly Salmon Run. First of all, I would like to complain. They added nothing! You can throw eggs, there are more bosses, the big final bosses. You know what other people call that? An update! Even the people I know who say this is a much different game than Splatoon 2 agree with me when I say that the new Salmon Run is nothing special. There is the new big Salmon Run when they invade the city, but even that is the equivalent to adding a new map. It should have been a reverse Salmon Run, where the salmon come to the shore and take their eggs back from you. The amount of eggs you have left then decides your pay, but instead, it's just more of the same. Here's how I'm gonna fix Salmon Run in Splatoon 3. Not have it. All the new additions to Salmon Run should just be an update to Splatoon 2. Maybe a thank you gift for still enjoying 2 after 3 releases. Let Salmon Run still be a Splatoon 2 exclusive. Instead, let Splatoon 3 have its own game mode. I call it... I don't know what to call it yet, but I know what the game mode will be. Splatoon 3 has been talking a little bit about mammals lately, so this will drop the nomadic theme and instead go for a mystical aberration type approach. You and 3 friends play archaeologists entering a newly discovered cave. Each level, you will have a completely randomized challenge. It might be a mini version of Salmon Run, a level akin to the main story, but smaller and designed for multiplayer, beating strange robotic Inklings and Octolings in a turf war match. Something completely new for this mode. Anything's possible. Clear a floor and move on to the next, get team wiped, and restart from the beginning. If you don't fully understand what I'm trying to get across, think the Scarescraper from Luigi's Mansion mixed with Splatoon. Every 5 levels there will be a boss. It could be a specialized version of already existing boss or an entirely different boss relating to the mysterious ruins. Though it may seem like a normal cave at first, slowly as the team gets deeper it will be revealed to be the long-lost ruins of human civilization. There will be foreign technology, mode-specific mechanics, interesting items trapped in crystals, and more. The deeper you go in, the better the rewards get. The canisters from Salmon Run with abilities or cash, themed clothing representing the ruins, and maybe even special weapons for making it really deep into the infinite ruins. But most importantly, lore. And that's everything. I have gone through and redesigned Splatoon 3 to be different enough from its predecessors that it and Splatoon 2 can coincide on the same console without devaluing the other. See Nintendo, if you did this, then people would want to buy both games instead of just Splatoon 3. But hey, even though I'm done sharing what I'd want Splatoon 3 to actually be like, that doesn't mean we should stop there. I've said it a couple times already, but I would love to hear what you would add or change to the game. You can make up your own ideas, you could add off of my ideas, you could even write what the full story to my made-up campaign is. Even if you like the game, you probably have something you want to add to it. Or you could just call me mean things in the comments. Both work. Anyway, while you're doing that, I will be building a multi-dimensional gateway so I can go play the game I just invented.